Global warming, and is global warming our biggest global challenge? It's hard to think of many things powerful enough to disrupt life across an entire planet. Huge natural disasters like earthquakes, erupting volcanoes, or tsunamis can affect thousands of people, but their impacts are usually confined to just one region of the world. Terrorist attacks can cause widespread terror, but again, their impact is usually just localized to one area. Catastrophic nuclear accidents like the one that happened in Chernobyl can cause widespread toxic radiation, but again, their impacts are just localized to one region of the world. Global warming, which is the gradual rising of the Earth's temperature, is different from all of these, representing a threat greater than anything humans have faced in recent history. Unless we tackle the problem soon, it could transform the planet we live on, making the climate much more extreme and forcing many species into extinction, and making life much more difficult, especially for people living in developing countries. But what exactly is global warming? Well, global warming is, according to NASA, the unusually rapid increase in the average Earth surface temperature over the past century, primarily due to the greenhouse gases released as people burn fossil fuels. Because of this, the Earth is getting warmer ever so slightly each year. This may not be noticeable in the short term. In fact, since the 19th century, the whole planet has warmed by only around 0.8 degrees Celsius. By the end of the 21st century, however, global warming is likely to cause an increase in the Earth's temperature to around 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. Global warming is caused by a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. We differentiate between the natural greenhouse effect and the enhanced greenhouse effect. In the natural greenhouse effect, the sun's rays pass through the greenhouse gases and warm up the Earth. The warming planet gives off heat energy that radiates out towards space. Some of this radiation does not pass through the atmosphere but is reflected back onto Earth, effectively trapping the heat and keeping the planet around 33 degrees hotter than it originally should have been. This is a good thing. Without it, Earth would not have been able to support the huge diversity of life that it does. Most of the energy people use today come from fossil fuels, producing huge clouds of carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide drifts up into the atmosphere and makes Earth's greenhouse gas just a little thicker. This is called the enhanced greenhouse effect. As a result, more of the sun's heat gets trapped inside the atmosphere and the planet warms up. Some of the consequences of global warming are more frequent and severe weather. Higher temperatures are worsening many types of disasters, including storms, heat waves, floods, and drought. A warmer climate creates an atmosphere that can collect, retain, and drop more water, changing weather patterns in such a way that wet areas become wetter and dry areas become drier. Dirtier air. Rising temperatures also worsen air pollution by increasing ground-level ozone, which is created when pollution from cars, factories, and other sources react to sunlight and heat. Ground-level ozone is the main component of smog, and the hotter the thing gets, the more of it we have. Dirtier air is linked to higher hospital admission rates, higher death rates for asthmatics. It worsens the health of people suffering from cardiac and pulmonary disease. And warmer temperatures also significantly increase airborne pollen, which is bad for those who suffer from hay fever and other allergies. Higher sea level. The polar regions are particularly vulnerable to a warming atmosphere. Average temperatures in the Arctic are rising twice as fast as they are elsewhere on Earth, and the world's ice sheets are melting fast. This is not the only This not only has grave consequences for the region's people, wildlife, and plants, its most serious impact may be on the rising sea levels. By 2100, it's estimated our oceans will be 1 to 4 feet higher. But why do these things matter? The ecosystem in different regions of a planet are finely balanced. In the polar regions, plants and animals have adapted to living in the cold, with barely any sunlight and hardly any rain. Many parts of the Earth will see their climate change drastically. The poles may become too warm for many of the creatures that live there. If the climate change happens slowly, things could have time to adapt. Plants that like the cool could gradually shift northwards and grow at higher latitudes. But with a relatively rapid climate change, plants and animals may not be able to adapt quickly enough, and many will become extinct. And it's not just the Arctic that will be affected. Climate change will make life difficult for plants and animals all over the world. In the tropics, for example, warming oceans are expected to kill parts of the coral reef, with disastrous effects on the complex, colorful ecosystem that depend on them. Some predictions say climate change could make 30 to 40% of the world's species go extinct. Humans, of course, are animals too, although we often forget it. We are also part of a complex global ecosystem. More erratic weather patterns could mean much greater storm damage and the loss of coastal areas to rising seas. Floods are also likely to plague some countries, drought others. According to Discovery.com, climate change flooding could make around 100 to 200 million people permanently homeless in 2100. Even in a world of rising sea levels and often more severe rainfall, many more people are expected to suffer severe water shortages. The short answer is yes. To reduce the impact of climate change, we need to reduce global warming. That means producing fewer carbon dioxide emissions, and it might mean using less energy or using it more efficiently. The real problem is that the global trends are working against us. Developing countries like India and China are becoming more and more westernized. More people are buying cars and aspiring to have the same kind of lifestyle as people living in the United States and Europe. With global energy and fossil fuel use still increasing, major climate change seems unavoidable. To answer the question that I asked in the beginning, I think that global warming is the most important global challenge because of three main reasons, in my opinion. Firstly, global warming is affecting all other global challenges, for example food production and access to clean water. Changes in the climate will make it easier to grow food in some places, but much harder in others. According to the World Watch Institute, there may be gains in production in parts of the United States, but countries such as those in Africa are predicted to lose out. Overall, the production of food in all over the world is going to decline, and the prices will therefore rise. Also, according to the climate hot mats, global warming will also affect quality and quantity of water all around the world. This will have huge consequences on our health and well-being. Global warming is also increasingly important, and is not a problem that is going to disappear if we stop to think about it. On the contrary, it is a problem that is going to increase in the future. Therefore, it needs our immediate attention. Of course, a lot of the other global challenges also need our immediate attention, but I believe that the seriousness and severeness of global warming that the global warming can inflict is therefore more important. Lastly, global warming affects all of us, both in direct and unforeseen indirect ways. For example, like I said before, food and drink water will become more difficult to get, and that therefore this will affect all of us.